by the way, you were talking about like the guarding your eyes thing. Can I address that for a few
Yeah.
moments?
Yes. Yeah.
The main problem with dealing with this topic is the terms that are used to describe it. And I believe those terms were like controlled opposition, like they were embedded by the enemy to keep us from making any progress. Because the enemy never wants you to know what you're actually facing.
Yeah.
So we say the word porn, right? Porn is the epidemic of the entire human race right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you can't say that because it isn't the real thing.
On the website they do say it.
No.
There's a whole Lashon over there.
No. Listen. What I'm saying is the term itself is
you mean in the Jewish world?
Preventing you, just in general.
Okay.
The term itself is preventing you from understanding what you're facing. If you don't know what you're facing, you can't.
The term porn or the term guard your eyes?
The term porn.
Oh, okay.
It's not porn. The problem, you're calling it the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like what everybody calls porn, and you think I'm doing shtick right now. Based on what I'm going to say, I'm not doing shtick.
No, I get it.
I'm giving a disclaimer. No shtick is happening.
I'm going to post this as a clip, by the way, and people are going to come across it. And
it's not supposed to be called porn, because if you really wanted to call it what it really is, it's called beautiful naked women
on the offering,
passionate fantasies.
Yeah. AKA misguided Shechina.
Well, that's already that's like a side point. That's too advanced.
Yeah.
If you say something that advanced, that's also going to screw things up.
Yeah.
Because people, you know what Shechina is.
No, but they have to know that that's why we're going for that, because it's
eventually. No, but just to understand. Look, I'm saying like name the problem.
Yeah.
As it like, what is the problem?
Yeah.
The problem is you're not fighting porn. You're fighting the male programming.
Yeah.
To desperately want to connect with beautiful, naked women, human women, right? Doing things, that exist in the fantasies of men.
Yeah. And if you're a married guy, you wish your wife would do it, and if you're not married, you wish you're whatever.
Right? No, it's like not necessarily. It's just like because every guy wants every woman anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're married or not. It's not. That's also something. Yeah. If you're married, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything is taken care of, like in here, in terms of like.
Yeah, of course not. It doesn't solve the. By the way, a lot of the guys on that website are married, unfortunately. I mean, it's unfortunate that they're married and they have that problem.
Okay, so you're not. So by calling it porn, you're kind of.
You're abstractifying. It's an abstraction.
But it's almost like let's say
It's like smut, zevel.
But it's also like,
garbage.
Yes, but here's the main problem with it. Think about the scariest army that you've ever heard of. Let's use something modern from pop culture. The Imperial Stormtroopers, or the Imperial forces, right? From Star Wars. The Death Star.
Yeah.
Star destroyers, right? Like planet leveling, like power.
Yeah.
Right? And imagine taking the Death Star and calling it Cindy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait. Why do you calling that Cindy? It's like, hey, folks, Cindy's on her way here.
Yeah.
So, hey, folks, the Death Star, it's on its way here.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're calling a Death Star Cindy, you're trying to, like, people won't connect. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, they won't understand the problem. What's the problem
porn here? Is equals Cindy. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like you can't fight. People are like, oh, you watch porn?
Yeah.
Like, no, I watch beautiful naked women.
I'm a man with a I'm a straight man who watches beautiful naked ladies. Yeah.
Right. I watch the thing that I desire the most.
Yeah. That
right?
Hashem. And by the way, I wanted to mention that Hashem gave me that.
Yeah.
And thanks Hashem, like it's all your fault.
So it's greatly marginalizing the actual issue, which is why
but that's the Haredi world. Again, we're back to the rug sweeping.
Right.
It's the same thing with everything. Sweep it under, or use veiled language. At best.
Imagine going to battle, like with, like remember that scene where Luke had to fly into the first Death Star into this valley, and shoot like a freaking like some kind of missile into like a small hole, right?
Yeah.
While being attacked by TIE fighters, a squadron of TIE fighters being led by Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That's what we're facing. We're not facing Cindy.
Yeah.
I don't know why Cindy. I'm thinking Cindy from the Brady Bunch. Like the little girl.
Yeah.
Right. That's not what we're facing. We're facing Darth Vader.
The one nobody wants. Yeah.
Oh, Cindy. What do you mean? No, you're thinking about Jan. Jan is the one who
feels Marsha. Yeah.
He was the middle child, so she felt neglected. No.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about Jan, folks.
Yeah.
We're talking about Marsha. Just
yes.
Yes, actually, we are talking about
Marsha. Yes, we are.
After when she's in the sorority,
Yeah.
So you're diminishing, like you're making fun of someone. You're making them feel like crap because you're like, ugh, you're so weak that you fall prey to something so silly and foolish. It's sort of like, do you even know what you're talking about? No.
So I will just tell you that just for a quick second, the people, for example, who run this particular organization website, there's a lot of empathy. It's actually, I logged into it today. Just again, I'm giving people TMI. They've created a whole interface. It looks like a freaking. It's amazing actually what they've created with PDFs and this and that and methods and. There's not just, it used to be just a message board where guys could just talk. Now it's like this whole, you have like a calendar, you have prizes. It's crazy. It's like this crazy thing. They're raising, they're having a cause match, like a campaign. There's organizations. They had like videos from top rebbeim, rabbis saying like, this is, we're trying to, there's a lot of guys and it's an unfortunate thing. And a lot of guys, both married, not married. And, we're trying to like solve this problem or whatever. We're trying to like, and actually Rabbi Mansour, and this is nothing private, so this is a video out in the open. Rabbi Eli Mansour said, I've spoken to a lot of big rabbis, and they said that the problem in the last generation for Mashiach is going to be this problem. It's going to be Kedusha, the problem of the Jewish world. It's going to be bigger than any other problem, anything else. It's Kedusha, is holiness, purity, and they have a lot of empathy for guys. It's not a thing. It's not a thing that they're like here to shame you. Like we have, there's like message board guys talk about, what works for them, Torah, this, that, Yeah,
no, listen, I wanted to say that's the only thing that works. That's studying Torah is the answer. It is the antidote. But the thing is, we're not allowed to study Torah, meaning by God.
Yeah.
What
do you mean? What do you mean we're not allowed to? Well, we have to work and stuff like that. We have to.
Yes, he sends us into the porn.
Yeah,
he sends us into.
Yeah, these guys are going to Manhattan. Even if they're not going to Manhattan, they're going to like even wherever they are.
How many of those X-wing fighters didn't make it along the bombing sortie to try to destroy the Death Star?
A lot.
We were watching a movie about the one guy that made it.
Yeah.
What about all the dead?
He's a very special guy. He had the Force with him.
Right.
He don't have the Force with us.
He just had a guy helping him, giving him all the answers and stuff like that. Basically a cheat code. Okay. Yeah. And the whole surface of the Death Star is littered. There's an entire cemetery of destroyed X-wing fighters. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's God that has to fix this. Ultimately, like we could try, we could struggle and all that kind of stuff, but he gave us an enemy which is we can't overcome because it's us. The enemy is
we can do it for 90 days, get a nice little like a sticker that you get on the website, a nice little prize, and then something happens. It even has a thing where like you can like list when you had what they call a fall, when you fell, and then you start all over again. So it's like they know you're gonna fall.
And here this is very, very important. This is very, very important.
Yeah.
The state of mind that a person is in when either they're in a real situation with a woman, whatever. I don't want to get into the details. We all know how the birds and the bees, okay? But that state of mind is so there's an intensity, there's an energy there that there's nothing else that's like it. That's why it was the most sought after experience throughout all of human history.
Yeah.
Right? And now you have something which can stimulate that without having to, and much more.
What most people don't realize is that if you think about how let's say this is before the internet came about, most wars, when you slice it all down, are fought over this. Why? Because men are trying to acquire resources so they can have power and or money so that they can get said lady. Now you have a situation where like this stuff is available, but guys still want to, here's the kicker here. They still want to acquire money and resources. They can get the said lady in real life what they see on the internet, because it's a disgrace to just sit on the internet and be what's called an incel. You got to get the real thing. So let's start more wars and more money and more resources and this.
Yes,
continue.
That's already a different thing.
Yeah.
That's another problem, which
is part of the same.
100%.
Yeah. Part of the same desire.
What I'm saying is that just in the daily experience, like, engaging that activity, I'm talking about, mentally, what's going on in your mind. It creates a drug-like feeling, right? Yeah. Where everything else in comparison seems extremely boring. It feels like death. Okay, so when so even if you get a person to stay away from something, right, they get progressively duller and kind of like, and that's why there's such a recurrence problem. There's such a, falling off the wagon. I'm using terms from drug.
Yeah, for sure. But it's an addiction
because of the crushing boredom.
Yeah.
Of everything else in comparison to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and
it's called novelty. It's called the search for novelty. The quest for novelty.
Boredom, by the way, is another word that needs to be changed in order for people to understand what it really is.
Yeah.
Boredom is similar to calling the Death Star Cindy. Okay?
Yeah.
Boredom is abandonment. That's what boredom should be called. It's the feeling of being utterly forgotten about and abandoned by God. That's what it is. Okay? That's what boredom is. All right? So when a person feels that way, they have a very deep vacuum that they need to fill. Okay? And so there's only two choices, Torah or that, because Torah is very intense. Torah, it truly is a match for that other thing that people struggle with. I wish more human beings on earth knew about Torah. I wish they would study the Talmud.
Yeah.
I wish they would engage their mind in this, because when your mind is hooked in to the subject matter that Torah is talking about, and the way this knowledge is arranged, it was made by God for the human mind. It was designed, it fits perfectly. It was made for the person. Okay? So there's nothing like it. And we could talk about it all day, but until you experience like a real or several Torah study sessions, you said you have enough energy to do it all day.
Yeah.
Like people you'll study and it feels like, like you just sat for 4 hours and it doesn't feel like anything. And you feel like you can go another 4 hours, another 4 hours. And the only reason, you just crash out because your body literally can't take it, but you pass out. What does that sound like? It sounds like the other thing. Right? There's only two things that create that.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So
there's only two things to make you sweat.
Right. So if only God would just let people just study Torah all day without shame or without the need to go out into freaking, into the red light district, which is the entire earth. The whole earth now is the red light district. Okay,
yeah, it's crazy. Pretty much.
Like in the old days.
Yeah, there's no more tznius. Like for example, like no, dude, like you see like the fashion today. It's like
in Amsterdam.
Forget it. It's over. It's over.
Yeah,
Game over.
In Amsterdam, like the red light district was probably like some lady standing in like in a window, and like and like she was like fully covered except
and she's pulling up her dress on her leg. Yeah.
And you saw like an ankle, and guys were like, howling.
It's like, hey, baby, and everybody's like, ooh.
Right. She wasn't even naked. She was just like, it was just insinuating that. So and.
Dude, at the risk of Farrakhaning, Rebbe Mizrahi, this is one of Rebbe Mizrahi's Farrakhan moments. Rebbe Mizrahi, Farrakhan this. He said, non-Jewish ladies on the beach in the 20s are more tzniut than Orthodox ladies today.
But Orthodox ladies are still
more tzniut than even ladies today, yes.
No, but relatively speaking,
yes.
Talking about ladies in general,
yes.
Orthodox women are still the most.
That's how low our generation is.
Can you at least let me say the word? They still are the most modest of the current ladies.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's,
As you see dude, come to Crown Heights on Simchas Torah and witness.
Dude, why do we
bear witness?
Why do we even need Farrakhan when we got you?
That's right. That is right.
We don't even need Farrakhan.
I know.
Right. Reverend Farrakhan, or whatever you call yourself.
It's not Farrakhan. It's actually not Farrakhan. It's what we just spoke about, dude. I'm telling you, I spent Simchat Torah. I'll tell you this. I realized that the Rebbe's bracha worked. The bracha that would make pretty much a good portion of Lubavitch females absolutely stunning. Like I was in Crown Heights for Simchas Torah. This is like 2017, and me and my friend are walking on Kingston Avenue, and we're just like we our heads almost fell off. Like it's crazy.
And that reminds me of why it works. Remember what they said? Somebody said to you that the reason why you're suffering and you're not married is because of that thing. They're trying to tell you that it's a spiritual issue. Like there's some kind of spiritual mechanics that will, if you stop that, then you will be rewarded in some. No, my friend, that's not. I mean, that's what they're saying, but that's not the reason why it's going to work. Yeah. Meaning, yes, stop doing that. And yes, you probably will get married much sooner if you stop doing that, because of the desperateness of which you will be, which is the way you're supposed to be. You don't understand.
Yeah.
Guys, most men decided to get married because they needed to have sex.
Yeah.
Desperately. And there's no
we're talking about Orthodox men.
I'm talking about men.
Yeah, period.
Period. Forget about Orthodox men. I'm talking about the human
being. Don't. But today you don't need to be married to do that.
I'm talking about historically.
Oh, okay.
Historically.
Yeah.
Well, before, like, the non-Jewish world was the same. You still had to get married.
Yeah.
To, unless you wanted to go to the wrong side of the tracks and and meet the chick with the who hung out with the greasers or whatever they happened in the 50s. Okay. So my point is that it was still like very difficult to for a guy to be intimate with a woman if they weren't married. They had to, and they didn't have the level of smut. Yeah. See, I'm using it too. They didn't have access to the Death Star.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't have to deal with the Death Star.
The Death Star was practiced, but it wasn't. You didn't sit on a box and watch other people at your command.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was
whatever.
It was ridiculous. You know, there was this one scene that always made me sick to my stomach. There's a movie called Cinema Paradiso.
Oh, I remember that movie. It's a great movie.
It's
a great movie.
Europeans are very familiar with this movie. It's a classic movie.
Oh, the little kid watched somebody do.
There was a movie. Look, Cinema Paradiso was about. It was a small Italian village. I think even was it Sicily? Could have been Sicily.
It was. Yeah, Sicilian town. Film centers on the friendship between a young boy and an aging projectionist, like in a movie theater.
Right. So the young boy was Toto, and the projection, the guy who played the movie for the people. So the small
Alfredo,
the small Italian. He was a wise man, and the small Italian town. They opened up a movie house. You know, it was a novel thing. Yeah. It was just when movies started, right? Yeah. And so it was the primary entertainment for the whole town. Yeah. And then, you know, there was a whole issue with the religious part, you know, with the church, and, you know, the church was worried about the negative effect, rightfully so, that it would have on the town. And then the priest would come, and, you know, he would see what are they showing and who's there and who's being influenced. Yeah. And they were showing I think it was a movie with Brigitte Bardot, who's a beauty, you know, French beauty. Yeah. And, you know, she was in a lot of, you know, scenes in movies that were pretty, you know,
at that time considered risque. Yeah,
still,
yeah,
like, you know, some of that stuff, you know, like, so, and there were like the little boys that were watching it, and you know, they were like losing their mind, and they were basically, I don't want to say what they were doing. I think, you know, and then the priest saw them, and he's like rapists, murderers, beating the hell out of them, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you villains.
You villains. Meanwhile, he's the projectionist sitting in his room,
right,
by himself.
I mean, you know, it was like that. You know, it was like basically it's nothing compared to what's going on now.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you literally have like Sodom and Gomorrah, if not worse, beamed into your pocket.
A friend of mine, he has another friend who grew up religious, and he made the term, you know, he says, this guy's like a Talmud Chacham, and he goes, everybody's living in porno land. We're all these guys. We all have to stop living in porno land. That's what he says.
We all have to stop. How about God remove us from porno land?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. So we need Mashiach at this point to come and save us from porno land. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. All right. So the only way to remain to kind of unscathed is if you have the luck of being able to sit and study Torah all day, right? Or otherwise you're going to be miserable. Meaning the guys who are fighting it and winning successfully are not happy. They're embattled. You ever see people who are literally currently fighting and embattled? They don't seem like happy fellas. They seem like they're embattled, right?
Yeah, look at Zelensky. He's in battle.
No, they don't look like Zelensky. They look like, you know.
Yeah.
So basically, Zelensky is fake embattled. You know, he's not in the battle. He's just, you know. Anyway, that's so the reason why it's going to work for you, right, is this because you're going to experience the classic human male experience of being so desperate that you're just going to marry someone. And that's the story of humanity, Greg. That's how
I'm going to marry someone. You're saying that I'm not necessarily attracted to.
You're going to marry someone.
Okay.
Have you learned nothing?
I'm trying to clarify what you're saying.
Okay, but apply it to what we learned before.
Because when you're desperate, you marry anybody.
No. You're going to marry who God already picked for you. Your feelings about this person are completely irrelevant. It may seem to you in the process, like during the actual experience of meeting her, it may seem to you that the way you feel about her is relevant. But it ain't in reality. The ultimate reality is it ain't. That's already a circumstance that has been set up for you.
Understood. My answer to everything you're saying is things and stuff.
Stuff and things.
I have no. My answer is the answer we give each other via text. Yes.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, it might seem like a bummer, but if a person, and I'm not saying I've done this, okay, but if a person were to adjust their entire focus to align with the actual reality, which is this is the God show,
Yeah,
and we're all either employees or whatever. We're working on the show, and we have a very specific set of circumstances that we're thrown into, which we have no control over.
Yeah.
And we only have control over whether or not we're going to try to consciously serve God by being here. That's it. That's literally the only free will that we have. Okay, because everybody ultimately serves God all the time, whether they realize it or not. But to make a conscious decision to serve him in the circumstances is the free will. That's the free will that we're given. And then people will indulge you, even people who should know better, to tell you that, oh, no, free will extends further than what I just said, right? If the person who's telling you that knows better, they think you can't handle the truth. That's why they're speaking to you that way. They're kind of letting you stay in the matrix. Because they don't think you can handle. If I tell you really that in this particular, like, I'm just saying, like, let's say with your wife, with your future wife, if somebody's going to tell you that you have some input into that,
yeah,
they're just like, you know what, he doesn't need to know. It's all about the way it looks and feels, not the reality,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. Stuff. Well, sir, it looks like we solved another one of the Jewish world's problems today. Oh yeah.
Maybe we change the name of this podcast to
Farrakhan fanatics.
No. Although we would get more views. No, like something like Frank and Greg, save.
Frank and Greg take the carpet off the things that people throw under the carpet.
No, Frank and Greg save the Welt.
Yeah.
For the folks at home, the Welt is the
world. Yeah.
It's the Yiddish word for world.
The Jewish world, at least.
What that means is not. When you say that, you can have like all these like anti-Semites like start salivating.
Yeah.
The Welt means the Jewish communities and the culture that exists within these communities. That's what it means.
Yes.
So, really, the religious, not all the Jewish communities, just the religious Jewish communities.
So to any of you guys who are in your mid-20s and just entered yeshiva or were in yeshiva or coming out of yeshiva or going back to yeshiva, and you have certain thoughts in your brain and you're wondering why these conversations are not, or thoughts or topics not being addressed by your rabbis, I just want to let you know, first of all, you're not alone. And second of all, you just found out the reason. And third of all, now you may or may not have the tools, or at least you know how to not fall into the same bottomless pits that I did at one point. Again, I mentioned it, becoming almost a eunuch after ironically having the ability to deal with a lot of stuff in my 20s that certain ladies present to men. And once again, the Jewish world having disarmed me of the ability to do that. I wonder, does the same thing happen in guys who go through Chabad yeshivot? I feel like no.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying that every yeshiva castrates men like that.
no yeshiva has ever castrated men. This is, again, I'll tell you, an artifact of our generation alone.
I understand. I'm talking about today. Does every yeshiva today castrate Balshuva guys?
No.
Okay. So, which ones don't?
The yeshivas for the Balshuvas do. You know why?
No.
Because it's almost like the Balshuvas themselves expect it, because that's where they're coming from. They're coming from a world dominated and castrated, neutered by feminism, by wokeism.
Yeah. No, but not only feminism, but they're coming from a world where guys have to be a certain way to combat that.
It's almost
and it creates this whole like dynamic of like, you know, misogyny and all those kind of things.
It's
not misogyny, but like.
So here's how it works. Look,
perceived misogyny.
The guys who are involved in outreach, like these rabbis and all these special yeshivas that are made for outreach, right? To get non-religious guys from non-religious families to come, right?
Yeah.
So these outreach yeshivas, they need to seem sophisticated.
Yeah.
To these secular.
They need to seem acceptable to even the feminists in the Jewish world.
Right. They somehow have to cater to people who are like stuck in the muck of wokeism.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they're getting some of the muck. The yeshiva themselves is getting infected with some of the muck.
Yeah, they are. I keep telling my friend all the time that the Jewish world is infested with feminism. No, I'm talking about on the female side.
No. For the folks at home, I want to create a good like graph, right? So let's say, you know,
hope it's not like the hot crazy matrix. Sorry.
No.
I just wanted to say that.
That's a funny idea, but let's say, you know, you have like, okay, let's call the religious, the truly religious, the Orthodox Jewish world, right? The people in the world who are Orthodox Jews and the communities, right? Let's call that a cake. Let's compare that to a cake, okay? A chocolate cake, if you will, okay? And so, and the cake has an icing and it's a good cake, okay? It's pretty good. And so now some part of the cake is missing, okay? And the cake needs to be completed, all right? The problem is that the missing like sprinkles or whatever, right, of the, you know, you put on top of the cake or whatever toppings you put on it or whatever things you add to it, right? You got to go get it from, it's been disconnected. It lost some of it, okay? You know, like somebody was carrying it and then the sprinkles fell off, and they landed in some kind of like nasty, like waxy mess on the floor on the concrete. You know, some kind of like, you know, I'm not going to say feces, but some of that consistency. Now you got to pick the sprinkles out, right? You got to pick the sprinkles out and somehow, you know, try to.
It all sounds all very fruity.
It is, and then eventually it has to go back. So obviously the sprinkles can't go directly from the nasty mess on the floor. They need, you know, you got to wash them a little bit, right? And they need to go through a process where they can get back on the cake and everything's fine, and it's a good edible cake. Okay. So that process is called the outreach yeshiva.
Yeah.
But the outreach yeshiva, it's not really part of the cake. It's sort of like a pathway back to the cake.
Yeah.
But you still want the pathway back to be reflective of the cake. And it mostly was, and still perhaps is, but the problem is that what's happening, and it makes sense because this is the final generation and we don't have any time left anyway, right? That the yeshiva itself is getting, you know, it's getting
sucked into the zoma.
It's getting sucked into that waxy, disgusting mess where the sprinkles got caught.
Yeah.
Okay, and now here's the problem. When people look at the religious world from the outside, from the religious Jewish world from the outside, they don't see the cake. They see those outreach yeshivas, and then they think that's indicative of what the actual Jewish communities are like, and it's not.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about, oh, this is happening to the Jewish world, you're talking about the outreach part of it, not the actual cake itself. Because those people,
I mean,
if you just when I'm talking about the cake, here's the example I'm giving.
Dude, but if you're talking about guys who have that problem, there's also guys who grew up religious have that problem.
I'm not talking about this problem. I'm just talking about the perception of the.
I got you.
You know, so. Yeah.
You're talking about the castration, okay?
Yeah, I'm not even talking about that. Oh, yeah. So the guys who are in the cake are not castrated at all. I know. The guys in the cake are in Williamsburg.
I know. Not only Williamsburg. I noticed that they're also in Lakewood. They're
right. They're the Haredi guys, the people who are ultra Orthodox guys.
Yeah.
They have.
There's a lot of alpha guys in these communities.
They have no room in the vision of the woke.
I know.
Those they have to be eradicated.
I know.
Because you have some of the manliest kind of guys from the old school that exist in the communities, right? If you go to Borough, I'm not going to tell the woke where to find them, but you go to Borough Park. That's a cake. That's part of the Jewish cake. You go to Williamsburg, and even most of Crown Heights, and all the Orthodox Jewish communities in Israel, especially, and the Sephardic communities, right? Not in London, but in Israel. Okay.
I have a cardinal question for you based on everything we just. I have a cardinal question for you now, and this is something that I thought about for a while. Despite everything we said, and despite the fact that you're correct and we're all correct, would you say that the guys who are going through the Baal Teshuva process, who do in fact have that happen to them, that also is some kind of rectification, meaning what's really happening? It's a guy that lives a certain way, and part of that living that certain way, just hear me out for a second, is
I wasn't going to say anything.
I thought is an ego trip, really, if you want to say it like that. So this whole thing of the castration process, unfortunate, is in this world, in this lifetime, is for the purpose of nullifying the ego to kind of erase what's there and rebuild from anew. But the problem is, if you're the kicker here is that rebuilding from anew, you have to figure out what are you trying to now. First of all, you have to get the parts to rebuild, and you have to rebuild the new guy, who's not castrated. Why? Because he has to deal with what's in front of him, getting married, the ladies, the world, this. Meanwhile, he's like a shell of himself. Yeah. So, but that whole thing that I just described is a tikkun for that particular guy, which, by the way, those FFB guys didn't have to go through because for whatever reason that only God knows that we said before. Yeah. So
basically, in some of these outreach yeshivas, what they do to the guys is they view the guys as, because they came from the outside, so they're
as a project. Yeah.
They're dirty, and before they and look, even if it's gonna, essentially, in some ways, they're not doing this consciously, by the way.
I know they're not.
This is not like some kind of plan that they're trying to destroy.
Dude. I mean, I'll tell you.
It's the attitude. It's sort of like.
Dude, I was talking to my. Yeah. Dude, can I just say one more thing? I was talking to a friend.
I need to say something important.
Okay.
This is by the way, one of the main differences, I think, between the Chabad approach and the Litvish approach. The Chabad approach does not tell you that you gotta, that you're dirty. You got to get cleaned up.
So that was really my question about the Baal Teshuva Chabad places.
Yeah. That's not. Let's put it this way. That's not the Rebbe's approach. Yeah. If that crap is happening in yeshivas currently, then they've divorced themselves from the work of the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's happening. I hope it's not happening. Okay. And they, there's no conditions on Jews coming back and rejoining the Jewish community. But in some of these Litvish yeshivas, I'm not saying all of them, there is conditions, or they may not say there's no. They don't want to say it, but ultimately there is, But that's, this guy's like, he needs a lot more work. So basically, in summary, the assumption that somebody needs to be castrated if they, in a sense, or lobotomized to a certain extent, metaphorically speaking, from their old energy, right? Going through the yeshiva process is not the intent, and was certainly not the vision of those who began the outreach process. And if that
wasn't even the intent of Rabbi Weinberg either. It was not the intent.
Right, but it's possible that because the people who are involved in the outreach really truly don't understand the experience of the people that they're reaching out to.
They don't.
That in some ways the process has a sort of lobotomizing effect on the people that they're trying to help.
It's kind of like, again, we were talking about to Dr. Bregan, if they wanted to get back in the day, if they want to get rid of a person's psychological problem, instead of dealing with it, they just took out the part of the brain that causes it, and then meanwhile the person becomes a catatonic.
Right, like
it's the easiest way to.
Right. So, it's really like in order to. You got to understand the person that you're reaching out to.
This is why I've been saying for years, and of course on deaf ears for sure, that the people doing kiruv are supposed to be Balei Teshuvas themselves, but people are supposed to be recent. They're not supposed to be Haredim.
Not recent.
Not recent. No, I'm saying they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be Balei Teshuva who have experienced what the guys experienced, and they're not supposed to be.
Here's who I think it's supposed to be. Those lucky, or those who were reached out to, but weren't lobotomized.
Yeah.
And there are a couple. And which means the following, that they don't look at, when they see, let's say a guy like us, he came from the same background. And folks, when I say, let me just give you some images.
Rough Drawer is one of those guys, by the way.
Wait. Yeah. Me and Greg grew up in an environment which I like to call Olivier, cigarettes, and cleavage.
Yeah, Russian potato salad,
it's not Parliament salad. It's like,
whatever.
It's a typical salad that you might see at a Russian restaurant. That's all.
Yeah, Russian salad, Parliament cigarettes, and cleavage. Yeah.
You could replace the salad with any other kind of salad. I don't want people to focus on the salad. Just something that you'd see in an environment.
Yeah.
Okay, you could say semichki, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunflower seeds. Yeah.
All right. So I'm using that just kind of like it's kind of like a slice of life, and it's a good slice to give you an image of what we grew up around. Okay. So, and it's not just Russians. Like anybody who comes from kind of a secular kind of community, kind of saw the same thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you saw women trying to be sexy, right? Yeah. You saw guys trying to get those women.
We saw women thinking that to be that way would get them a husband, not only trying to be sexy for its own sake.
Not just that.
And sometimes it does, by the way. We saw the results of that being marriages.
He's talking about like, something like, maybe our parents.
We see girls today in Brooklyn going to the supermarket. They can't go to the supermarket unless they put on makeup. Russian girls. They have to be dolled up to go to ShopRite. I'm
not talking about today. The girls are so different. The girls who are contemporaneous with us, I'm not talking about that. So I'm just saying that, like, when we were kids, what do we see when we were kids? We saw secular women trying to be modern and sexy. Yeah. We saw guys trying to be cool and rich and all this kind of stuff. It's very, it's not just the Russian community. I think everybody can relate to this, except for the Orthodox Jews or the Amish. Yeah. Okay. But even the Amish have their kind of like their pageantry, like there's some like big, big, strong, like, you got to raise a barn, you got to, that kind of stuff. Okay. So you're trying to reach out to a person who grew up around pageantry and sexuality, right?
Yeah.
And you can't relate to that.
Yeah.
And also you see it, even when you do see it, you see it as extremely negative. You have an automatic negative response to it. Yeah. And you want to be like, you should get away from that. It's
like Mizrahi, the nightclub, and this, and this, and this. And that's why he resonated with me, by the way.
Right. But you're getting me in trouble by See, sometimes like when I'm talking about certain subjects,
dude, that was just for sick, man.
If you stop me at a certain point, I'm effed. Because of the sound bites. So listen, as if I'm, one day in the future. So the point is that, the point is that you do have to get away from those things. It's true. But it doesn't mean that you have to look at it as negative when you didn't know better. You understand? You have to understand that, like, God sent you through that.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have to have animosity towards it. Because the people who you grew up around, they also didn't know. Okay? So, but the point is, you're not supposed to, like, you're supposed to have, like, if you were being shown something before you realized that, you shouldn't be in that environment, that means that you were sent there and you didn't have the free will to extract yourself from that environment or to view it as certain things negative.
Dude, can I say one quick thing? I can't help but think of this one moment where I remember, like, a few years ago, I went to a Russian restaurant. It was like a birthday of some relative, and my grandmother was there. And this is already me, like 5 or 6 years into me being religious, and she thought that I didn't dance. My grandmother wanted to, like, dance with me or something, whatever. Or she wanted me to go dance with her and then, like, with a group of people, like family members. And then she thought I wasn't going to do it, and I actually ended up doing it. But before I did that, she was like, "Ты дикарь." No, she's like, my mom comes up to me, she's like, "Your grandmother wants to dance with you." I'm like, "Okay, fine." And then my grandmother's just like, "Пошли, дикарь, let's go," like caveman, like as in like a man who doesn't want to dance with a woman because I'm religious.
Right. You see that's the environment. Like anything correct, anything proper, anything godly was viewed as like,
what the hell's wrong with you?
Like caveman.
No, because they're used to, like, you're supposed to dance with your grandmother, and like there's other ladies there, and half of them are whatever.
By the way, we do look like cavemen. Like, look at my beard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I had the same beard that day. I remember distinctly. I had to keep up. It was me, my cousin, and his wife. So we're the only 3 religious people, and we brought food from outside. Yeah. The people who ran the restaurant looked like us. It was actually Baku, the place, Baku and Sheepshead, Baku Palace, Sheepshead Bay. Even though the guy who was the people who the chef ended up being, he ended up being the chef. He's an Azerbaijani Jew. Ended up being the chef of a kosher of King Solomon later after that.
Focus.
I'm just saying he knew who religious people were, but the staff were looking at us like we're like literally dikari. And my grandmother was like, "Idem dikar, idem tzva."
Yeah, it's like you you found somebody in a village,
dude,
in Timbuktu.
Dude, she's hilarious.
Civilization. This is how they look at us.
When she first saw me in Tzitzit, she's like, "Why are you? Зачем тебе надо одевать эти штуки? Ну, они людей бьют на улице. They're beating Jewish guys on the street. Why do you have to wear the tzitzis?
Yeah. Look, it's very difficult. It's very there's such a rift.
Yeah.
Especially when a person really doesn't want to understand at all.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, once you understand that God really wanted you to see all that, He put you in that for 30 years before you knew any different, right? He put me in there for 15 years before I knew any different. Okay? And obviously He wanted us to be shaped by it. There's obviously some stuff that He wanted us to extract out of it, right? There's some stuff that He wanted us to know that He knew we wouldn't get growing up solely in the Orthodox world, because obviously the Orthodox world is lacking too. You understand?
Yeah.
So what I think, the This is my opinion now. Could it be different? Could it be something else entirely? Yeah. But here's what I think. Ultimately, there's a certain reality of the human experience that has been sucked out of the Orthodox world.
Yeah.
They're so isolated. They're
so cloistered.
Whatever you want to say. They're so ghettoized, right? That they have forgotten part of the human experience that God infused that was supposed to be there. Okay? So they don't have enough of that kind of sexual tension that is supposed to be part of the human experience. Like there's like a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Like the concept of tension itself, forget about just sexual tension, but tension itself.
And by the way, that because of that leads to repression.
Well, hold on. We're going to get confused here. Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes, but
the lack of the thing leads to repression. That's what I'm saying.
The lack of tension leads to repression?
Or the lack of, meaning because there's so much, well, or maybe it's the other way around. Basically, it's Catholicized. The Jewish world is Catholicized because they spent a lot of time in Europe, and that's it.
Yeah,
it's repressed. It's a repressed world.
I agree. No, but that doesn't mean. See, here's what I'm worried about. If people hear us say repressed, they're going to think we're saying that we have to transgress the law.
No, we don't.
No. What I'm saying is that there was. I'm trying to think of a good way to explain this. In the past, let's say even 150 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people and Orthodox Jews, they lived a much more connected to the earth.
Yeah.
Life.
Much more real life.
A much more real life where you didn't live in these like sterile, sealed environments, right? Like the outside bugs got into your house. Even the richest people, they have bugs getting into the house.
Yeah, you didn't have what do they call it? What's the company that delivers food to your house?
What
green something?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Right.
Whatever. You didn't have all that.
Fresh something. Right.
Fresh direct. You didn't have fresh direct kosher version.
Right.
Yeah. Today the biggest complaint I hear is people complaining that they have
fresh
the delivery. The delivery service. No, they have a kosher part of the delivery service, and the delivery service forgot or couldn't find the kosher products of the thing that they're offering. It's like this complaint. I'm like, dude, be thankful that these things even have a kosher option.
I don't think it's good, though. I think it's a bad idea.
I know. I'm just saying that, if you want it, and if and I'm like, people are like, oh, whatever.
So what I'm trying to say is, like, you lived most likely in a village. And you farmed, you grew some stuff, or you had to deal with animals directly.
Yeah.
And to get water, you had to go to a well. And sometimes you had to go to a river.
Yeah.
And sometimes you went to a river and there were other people at the river. And sometimes you saw some nudity. Sometimes the point is that part of the when I say part of the human experience, what I'm saying is what have humans experienced through most of human history? Not like right now. You understand what I'm saying? Like there were like little why did God arrange things so that someone would see like a side boob or something like that, at a well by accident?
Every time somebody says side boob, I think of Peter Griffin, side boob.
I'm just saying like there's like a moment. It's to create a moment of tension.
Yeah.
Right. Something like something that affects you very, very much. Yeah. It was an accident. It wasn't. The kid didn't try to see it, and the lady didn't try to show it. It happened, right? But why did it happen? What's God doing?
He's trying to make.
He's
trying to make babies.
It's not just that. He's showing you about the excitement.
Yeah. Right?
About which is a metaphor.
What he feels for you and what you're supposed to feel for him. Yeah.
Right. And again, see, this is where it gets a little bit advanced because you have to understand God's not a he or a she, but in the context of the relationship between
husband and wife, yeah.
God's the husband, right? And so in order for, and we're supposed to, like, copy God, right? Like we're supposed to walk, we're supposed to mimic whatever we can mimic, whatever he shows us, right? So he wants you to understand the passion, right? So every like little, it creates a tension, and there's like, but again, that doesn't mean transgress. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean immediately submit to the worst part of yourself. Just know that this exists, and it's very exciting. And let that stay in your head for a while, right? And while you're studying Torah, while you're following all the laws, while you're being a good boy, you still are excited about this, this tension that was created about this kind of like excitement, right? And it's that tension which not only helps you understand God's relationship to us, it helps you to get married, and because you want to experience that excitement, right? So I'm just giving, I couldn't come up with the best possible metaphor or like, scenario to help people understand this particular idea. But so that was part of the human experience. Like there were like these orchestrated moments where people saw things and were so taken by them. You know what I mean? It was an accident. Yeah. Like even when everybody's acting the way they're supposed to. So, there are these like moments, and the Torah talks about moments like this too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like Yitzhak and the Rivka and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean that was more like he saw her.
And but possibly even David and Bathsheba, right?
Dude, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to convey to people something, and to you, and actually this is something I was talking to my friend about, something that happened to me shortly after becoming religious, and this is after my engagement broke off and I started dating in the Jewish world. And I got it into my head that it was I didn't get it into my head. It was something that is prevalent, meaning something that you're supposed to do or not do in this case. That I'm supposed to be shomer negia. So the first girl I went out with after my broke engagement, we went out 3 times. After the 3rd date, she told me what I didn't touch her once, ever. After the 3rd date, she told me, and she's a Baal Tshuva also. So she's like, I feel like we have a friends vibe. Right? And from then on, just hear me out. After that, I got it into my head that in order to not be in the friend zone with any woman ever again, even if she's Orthodox, like Baal Tshuva, I must at least so much as hold her hand. I don't know why. And me and this girl went out on 2 other occasions. 1 second. And I don't know why. She's the only one I never touched ever. And I stayed in that friend zone until she got married.
There's a way to avoid the friend zone without touching.
And no, meaning, and this is why I haven't been fully shomer since that time, which is a mistake as well.
Yeah, because you see, like.
So now I'm in this kind of like world of like, I'm going to be shomer, I'm in the friend zone. I'm not shomer, I'm in the screwed up, the thing up zone. So I'm either friend zone or screw the whole thing up zone, and I'm nowhere basically.
There's a way to do it, and it's hard. There's no manual.
I know there's no manual.
You gotta,
and these rabbis ain't telling you nothing.
This is a very poor choice of words, but you gotta feel out the situation when you're in it, and not literally feel. That's the opposite of what we're talking about here.
But here's the kicker: you grab somebody's hand, and if you would say, "Well, I'm just gonna hold your hand," and that'll be that. Dude. That'll be that. Holding hands leads to this, leads to this, leads to that, and then eventually you're.
Dude, I don't know what to say, but
mixed dancing leads to mixed dancing. You know what I mean?
No. Whatever it is can be communicated with words and with words and other words and words, but not touch. Yeah. It doesn't have to happen.
Okay.
You be like, look, lady, you're challenging me here. I think let's.
Then there's this whole phenomenon of some of these ladies. They have, there's a book that came out called the 5 love languages, and like, let's say 25% of these girls are like, my love language is touch. Even the frum ones, my love language is touch.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Nor do I want to,
dude. It's
I
like
don't want to. It's just there's a limit.
they live in their own world. Okay, they live in their own invented horse crap world.
There's a limit to how much stupid shit can.
I understand. I'm just saying they believe this stuff and it's real to them. And if and some of them, if you don't even so much as hold their hand, you're in the FZ. Welcome to the friend zone.
It's not you. It's not the hand holding. It's the effect.
I'm messing with you. I know.
Stop with the fucking hand holding. All right. I'm
just grabbing onto what I can. No pun intended.
Stop grabbing shit. All right. That's the point. No. So the point is that there's a way to communicate that without the touching. Make it stronger too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in some way communicate. Be like, maybe we should call it a night because I'm feeling challenged here. Like there's a way to. I don't know. Every guy has to figure out how to send the message, right?
Yeah.
To stay out of the friend zone. Okay. So, but the way yeshivas deal with secular guys, right? When they come out, they're essentially like they don't know how to be anymore. Like they're you've created a little angel.
Yeah.
They take these boys and they turn them into angels.
Yeah, angels are not meant to be married.
Right. You've taken a man, you've turned him into an angel that's no earthly good.
Yeah.
That's the best way. I think that's the most correct description of what
Malachim are not here to be like alpha males having relations and having children.
Right.
Malachim are malachim.
Right. You've taken just to use another metaphor. Let's say you've taken an animal from the wild that had claws that it needed to survive and to live. You've declawed it, and then throw it back out into the wild. Good job, guys.
Dude, I've been. This is again one of those things where I'm bearing my soul to people. I've been spending the last 3 years, pretty much since the beginning of COVID, trying to get back at least 25% of the guy. Just so to speak, you want to call it the good parts that I was in my 20s, to make him suitable to be a husband, a Jewish, Shomer Shabbat, kosher, Torah, God-fearing husband. That's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. In between, trying to, meet somebody and get married and whatever it is. Dude, can I just say one thing? This is a conversation that we just had. I'm not, we don't have to end the conversation if you don't want to. That everything that we've spoken about today in the last almost 3.5 hours, it's been on my mind for the past almost 12 years.
We've had several episodes.
I know, but I'm saying, I haven't flushed it out in the way that we did it today. In the detailed and the very
poor choice of words, my friend, but I understand.
You know what I mean? I haven't.
Look,
There's a lot of things that I've said today that they've been on my mind. I've needed to say them. I needed to, work through them. And I think a lot of guys need to work through them. I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one for sure. And the guys there's no conversations like this that are being had for sure with very, very few rabbis on a private level, very few. And I would use the word shanda.